And then something comes along and says, hey, I got a better idea. Okay, now, this is as good as it gets. We're right here where it's as good as it gets. And the only way that you can get better than as good as it gets is if you find something that was not in as good as it gets. You know, you're as good, this is as good as it gets.
Right.
And somebody has to introduce you to some, hey,
look what I got.
I know it's as good as it gets, but have you ever seen one of these? And what that is the separation. It's ownership. And when it said, you know what, you can have possession of something.
Oh, right,
You can own something. And we go, wow, what a concept. God's the only thing that owns anything. He owns me. You know, it's like, so, and I can own stuff. This is great.
Yeah.
This is great. And it says, yeah, and it's virtually infinite. You know, since we have the sonship, this fragmentation will begin, or you'll have not ownership, but you'll have 7.5 billion ownerships. You know, in other words,
in competition for them.
And each of those 7.5 billion will have the potential to own many, many things. So you have multiplications of ownership and uniqueness and solving this. And it's like that is the sales pitch that was given. That was the mad idea of, yes, you may have it as good as it gets, but we've got something quite unique for you.
Right.
This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
So on this one, in this paragraph 7, this is kind of like what I was talking about, where there's an inward movement where if you want to try and find sanity, it says inward is sanity and sanity is outside you. You but believe it is the other way, that truth is outside and error and guilt within. And interestingly enough, I would have to say that I actually thought that, you know, when I consider how I relate to, you know, the otherly worlds, you know, the spiritual worlds, it feels like it's outside. And yet I know that when I take quiet time and everything else, that's when I experience an inward quietude and peace.
This is referring to all perceptions.
Yes.
Every perception is one of these feathers or whatever, and there are millions and millions and millions of perceptions.
Yes.
As fast as the brain can fire, you know, we perceive things. And so it's saying that these, now the thing is, we focus on some of those feathers that it's talking about make a difference.
I would say the ones that come closest together and kind of touch and then spin out and go again. You know, it's like any interaction that we have in the world. Sometimes there's many interactions at like large stadiums and things like that. The feathers are bumping into each other as you try to crowd into a stadium, and there's uproar and everything else. But the only ones that you remember are the ones that actually touched you in the large swirlingness.
Okay.
That's my perception.
But the deal is, I'm a thing in this insane asylum that we have created. I'm a thing that perceives. This body is built to perceive a world of some sort. Every one of those perceptions is recorded on my brain, and that every single one of them is recallable under deep hypnosis and things like that.
Right.
All of them.
Okay.
Memories from the age of 2 months old are stored in your brain. Now, we were extremely selective about what we remember, because those all reinforce what we are. But we're in a swirling cloud of perceptual reality,
Yes.
of which we only decide certain patterns mean certain things to us.
Well,
of
yeah,
those
I would agree with
feathers.
that. Yes.
So all the swirling aspect, in other words, let's say we're in a stadium, we're in a bunch of people, there's no greater, it's not more intense than me just sitting right here, quietly, same amount of perceptual material.
Right.
It's pouring in constantly. And if I'm in a stadium, I just have judgments about the noise, the number of people. I have my anxieties. I have judgments of what it is. But perceptually, same thing. God is love.
Yes.
Okay? And the opposite of that is God is fear.
Okay. Yes.
Now, what does that even mean? If God is love, means that God embraces all things, brings all things to himself, okay? That God is one, and that love is this gravitational pull towards sanity, towards the mind of God, towards the source of all things. That's love. It's this river that flows continuously within towards God's heart, let's say. That's love.
Right.
God as fear would be God separating out, carving off, rejecting, sorting, deciding categories.
Right.
So God as love brings all things to himself. God as fear is something else. God is not fear, but love. God being the highest reality. God is the source. God is the point of origination of all things. God,
It's the all-encompassing,
the
unifying
ocean,
force.
right. Now, to say that God is not fear, implying that the ego or our insane asylum believes that God is fear, I don't mean to wear it out, but what does that mean? Because to be honest with you, I cannot use this as a mantra until I understand what on earth it's trying to tell me.
Okay.
Paragraph 8. Let them all go, dancing in the wind, dipping and turning till they disappear from sight, far, far outside of you. And turn you to the stately calm within, where in holy stillness dwells the living God you never left and who never left you. The Holy Spirit takes you gently by the hand and retraces with you your mad journey outside yourself, leading you gently back to the truth and safety within. He brings all your insane projections and the wild substitutions that you have placed outside you to the truth. Thus he reverses the course of insanity and restores you to reason. Now, in this, what I hear is this journey that we're on,
Yes.
you and I and everyone, which is here in this world with these substitutions, we have fragmented ourselves off. We're shattered in the wind. And these things are unrelated, puzzling, troubling, maybe wonderful, but nonsensical madness of the way that everything I've ever done, the people I've known, the things I do are shattered out. I'm like a broken piece of glass, shattered, in terms of this. And so there are all these shards. They're very concerning shards. I want to reclaim the ones that were precious to me, and I want to forget and dismember actually the things that hurt me.
Right.
And I spend my time in this. And what it's saying here is that the Holy Spirit says, let them go. Let them dance in the wind, these substitutions, these fragments, these shards. Let them fly out from you.
Projections.
And they go out further and further and further. And so that you understand the Course here is suggesting let them go far outside yourself. That's where they are anyway. It says that's madness.
Right.
the outside world. But it's suggesting.
Because it's projections of my ideas that has made these things appear in the first place.
But it's counseling to let them go.
Yes.
Counseling to let them fly away with no concern. It's immaterial.
Right. What did
Let
it
them
say? It
concern.
said
Now let me finish.
None of them matter.
No, it does not matter. Nothing matters. So what is this about? I take the hand of the Holy Spirit. I am led through this realm of madness, and these things are brought back to truth, but only with the Holy Spirit. So I let them go because I am powerless to make sense out of the fragmentary issues of my life.
And what is truth? Wholeness.
You're right. Truth is wholeness, and truth is also the only goal, which we
Right.
covered in the other.
Right.
So truth as a goal. My point being here is that I have a sense of having lost myself. I have a sense of being fragmented and lost. And that in this partnership with the Holy Spirit, and this is an act of faith, which we covered as
Yes.
well, that I have this partnership, and in this partnership, you don't just let these fragments go. Okay, you don't say, I was nuts, it doesn't matter, it's gone. Yes, it doesn't matter to me, but the Holy Spirit brings these things back into that sense of wholeness, the truth. And together we bring it back into the one, the internal state that never was altered.
Right. Okay. All these fragments are my projections in the dream. And like in The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy hits her head and she falls asleep into a dream nightmare, she goes round and round and round to understand some various things about herself and her loved ones. And she's brought all the way back and awakens with those very loved ones all around her. I think that there's something where when the Holy Spirit brings my illusions, my projections to the truth, it means that what I'll recognize are all the hidden ways that love or asking for love was in each one of them. And it will be brought to my awareness that each one was either a loving act or a cry for help that needs love. And that all of them are then brought to the truth so that wholeness can be restored. In your relationship with your brother, where he, the Holy Spirit, has taken charge of everything at your request, he has set the course inward to the truth you share. In the mad world outside you, nothing can be shared but only substituted, and sharing and substitution have nothing in common in reality. Within yourself, you love your brother with a perfect love. Here is holy ground, in which no substitution can enter, and where only the truth in your brother can abide. Here you are joined in God as much together as you are with him. The original error has not entered here, nor ever will. Here is the radiant truth to which the Holy Spirit has committed your relationship. Let him bring it here, where you would have it be. Give him but a little faith in your brother, to help him, the Holy Spirit, show you that no substitute you made for heaven can keep you from it.
I understand the word substitute, but I think we should try to. I would be happier if we get more clarity on this concept of a substitution. How does that really work? I'm the one, the Son of God, the one at the beginning, all this kind of thing, and there's an actual substitute. There's a kind of, I'm seeing a not necessarily sleight of hand, but a swapping of realities for some reason. Now, if the illusion was so much inferior to the original Son of God, the original sonship, nobody substitutes things. You'd say, "Hey, you got $10? I'll give you $5." Nobody will do that.
No, my feeling is that all substitutions are substitutions for the remembrance of wholeness. So I am always looking for completeness in another, whether I realize it or not, in another, or another job, another house, another place to live.
Right, you're seeking the
I'm s-
original wholeness somehow.
You're always seeking the original wholeness, because somewhere in our ancient memory, as they say, the ancient memories that are the ancient songs are the memory of God and the wholeness of who and what I really am. So because I've forgotten, I go seeking it out unconsciously. I don't even realize I'm feeling incomplete and think that something else will complete me. We try to do it in our special relationship. So again, in this particular paragraph, we're going back to the holy relationship that the Holy Spirit wants to. He says, you committed your relationship to him now, because we already said that in a prior section. It says, well, do you want a holy relationship? And any one holy relationship, any one that you commit to wanting a holy relationship, it can cause disruptions. I'm not going to say that, but it is the symbol that you want wholeness again, and that the Holy Spirit is willing to work with any relationship that you hand over and say, this one alone can bring you back to the remembrance, to the full memory of who and what you are within the sonship. So, and any one of those memories will help trigger the rest of the sonship to awaken. So it is our job, that is our salvation, the way that my function is the salvation of the world, is that when I dedicate even one relationship that I want it to be holy, and I mean it, then the Holy Spirit is going to use that relationship, that's my brother, to bring me into the remembrance of that wholeness again. But in the meantime, all those swirling things and everything, all those are all my projections that I have placed out there, and I've discarded some and I've made others precious. The ones that I think are precious, I bring to myself, and I think it's going to make me whole. Some way it feels like, yeah, that friendship, that new car, that finally got the right job, finally, the good boss, whatever it is, that feels like I've become more complete, or some kind of success in a career or motherhood or whatever it is.
Some magic happened, some spell, something happened where, okay, I'm sitting here hanging out, full and complete. We're all complete. We're all together in this sonship, just enjoying this thing. And then something comes along and says, hey, I got a better idea. Okay, now, this is as good as it gets. We're right here where it's as good as it gets. And the only way that you can get better than as good as it gets is if you find something that was not in as good as it gets. You know, you're as good. This is as good as it gets.
Right.
And somebody has to introduce you to some, hey,
look what I got.
I know it's as good as it gets, but have you ever seen one of these? And what that is the separation. It's ownership. And when it said, you know what, you can have possession of something.
Oh, right,
you can own something. And we go, wow, what a concept. God's the only thing that owns anything. He owns me. You know, it's like, so, and I can own stuff. This is great. This is great. And it says, yeah, and it's virtually infinite. You know, since we have the sonship, this fragmentation will begin, or you'll have not ownership, but you'll have 7.5 billion ownerships. You know, in other words,
in competition for them.
And each of those 7.5 billion will have the potential to own many, many things. So you have multiplications of ownership and uniqueness and solving this. And it's like that is the sales pitch that was given. That was the mad idea of, yes, you may have it as good as it gets, but we've got something quite unique for you.
Right. Right. And it's individualized, and it's your own personal thing. And so, that's, and when you think of the way you were talking, I was thinking about the pusher. You know, the guy goes, look what I have. You know, that thing that's going to give you that other experience.
Oh, yeah, you're straight and normal all the time? Hey, get a load of this.
Get a load of this.
This will add wrinkles to your brain you never knew existed.
I know. And then it was like, wow, my eyes were open. You know, well, maybe, or maybe it's a trick.
No, that's a good one, because the pusher, there is a cost. There's a cost.
Yes, there is.
It may not be immediate, but there is eventually some sort of a cost.
Yeah. And so that's, I think, what we call the devil. And so, that's the voice inside that you want to pay attention that, oh, look who's trying to swoo me in over here. But this is all about the holy relationship because, it's bringing you, it says, within yourself, you love your brother with perfect love. Here is holy ground, right here, in which no substitution can enter, and where only the truth in your brother can abide. So again, the Holy Spirit, once you've decided that you'll take his hand and he'll gather the things and everything else, he says, okay, let me show you what this really is.
The thing is, along the lines of the analogy of someone selling me something
Yes.
that was not there. What's also true of that, true of the drug analogy as well, is that by taking this certain path, whatever that path is, you're usually sold in your mind anyway of what you're to gain on the other side of this.
That's right.
But what you're going to lose is not part of the equation.
That's right, too.
So in this case, the sense of oneness and wholeness, okay, we're operating from that. We're all together, we're one, we're whole, everything's great, it's wonderful. Think about before the computer. Before everybody had a PC, before every office had a personal computer, back in 1985, let's say.
Okay.
You're in 1985, you go, wow, so-and-so they run copies, there's title blocks, there's, hand entry of things, and there's receipts that are handwritten or typed in, and multiple copies, and all this kind of stuff that happens. But then the computer comes along and promises really solution. It offered solutions in all of those areas. And the sales pitch on it was, look, everything will be uniform. Oh, that's what we're going for anyway. Everything is going to be really formatted in a certain way. Well, that's a high point of frustration for us, is formatting this stuff, right? And so it's like one after the other. And there were probably about half dozen to a dozen very strong sales points. But what you lost was human endeavor and a certain kind of fellowship, craft, and a certain pride of workmanship. There's a certain amount of things that were absolutely lost when that went. Now, the thing is, the people who went whole hog on the computer, and I'm speaking from personal experience with architectural offices, none of them thought they were going to lose craftsmanship. They didn't think they were going to lose the artistic element. They didn't think they were going to lose these things. And now these offices have become sterile.
Yeah.
They really have become sterile.
And many buildings have, quote, facades. They're no
Yeah.
longer made out of real stone or real this or real anything. They're facades that will
The buildings
that
themselves.
break off with the next hailstorm.
Well, no, the buildings, and also with 3D printing, not to drag this in,
Yes.
but 3D printing, you almost have buildings that are sort of almost inkjet rendered,
Yes.
printed. Here's the brick, spray on the brick, spray on the concrete, and nothing, everything's made out of imaginite.
Yes.
It's all made up.
Right. So I mean, we're actually adding to our sort of fakery or illusory just for the aesthetic of things, even and we're making it more. It seems like we're making it more and more temporary. In other words, a throwaway building, a throwaway whatever. It used to be, oh, well, what do I do with this container? Well, you just throw it away. Really? It's like, all of your fast food and everything else was like, aren't we supposed to like try and do something with this container that it's still, no, it's a throwaway. So in other words, this world that we have made is becoming, in a way, just from the way that we're making things, more and more temporary. And our temporality is showing up more rapid.
But what's interesting about that temporality, you say, well, this is temporary.
Yeah.
Like let's say you're at a picnic and you got paper plates, and the paper plates are there, and we're going to throw them away.
Yeah.
And they're like a stand-in. They're a substitute. The paper plates are a substitute for, China or whatever, and back at home, flatware and stuff like that. And you think you're going to get rid of it. Now, you don't think that because I'm on a paper plate, I'm going to lose all that stuff at home.
No,
I don't
you
feel like
don't.
I'm going to
No.
lose it. But in the reality we're in, as you're saying, the throwaway society, the throwaway concept, the throwaways, we literally are throwing away our life Our life is the thing that's being thrown away, because time is the real thing that we're just throwing off. There's a delusion
And quality
there.
of time with others as well.
The deal now among certain people in a certain ilk are relationships. If you get hunkered down in a relationship, it could be the wrong one. There might be a better one. So every relationship is a placeholder for that perfect relationship. And it lasts until there's a certain sort of a rub. And then we move on and we say, well, I'm dumping this because there's one that looks like it's closer to
There's
the perfect
that
relationship.
substitution.
Right. And so we just keep on substituting. And we think that this is freedom and options.
Right.
And the possibility of really, really getting quality relationships. Your life goes away. Your life goes away. And you say, well, I didn't know that I only had 6 shots at that. I mean, I didn't realize that that I'm going to cut off pieces of my time, my life essence. I'm going to cut those off. And eventually I become cynical or jaded, or, there are high costs that we think we're gaining freedom because I refuse to relate to my community. I refuse to relate to one person. I refuse to relate to one tradition. If I time myself down to those, I'm chained to a limited, partial thing, when the real thing is out there somewhere. So what you're saying is that whole mentality is an engine that just chews up, eats, and spits out my life.
Yeah, well, the thing of it is that, the Holy Spirit is trying to bring it to wholeness. But all I'm saying is that the reflection of the world right now, of this sort of throwawayness that we have, just moving from one substitution to the next in order for convenience or whatever, and we seem to be more flippant about, well, so-and-so said whatever, and, so they gave me a bunch of thumbs down, so forget that. I'm never going to talk to that person again. Whatever it is that we just spit out and throw away. It seems like it happens more and more, to the point where I don't know what the Holy Spirit does with all of that, but the Holy Spirit's
it said to let them go. It said to let them fly away.
Right, and then it's going to gather them back up, and it's going to show you either what you threw away or what it really was or whatever. But there is love. The aspects of love are in all things all around us. So the Holy Spirit's going to show us the truth. He's going to say, here are all my illusions. Here's all my temporality of what I threw away here and there, what I gathered up, that I thought was precious that probably isn't really precious, that I seem to need to hold on to in order to make myself whole. The Holy Spirit is going to bring all of that to the truth.
But like with all substitutes, there's a shred of the truth, the paper plate, the precious china. There's a relationship there. The paper plate is a mental placeholder for a better way. Or, I'm using it as an example.
Yeah.
So when you said the stuff I want to hold on to might not be worth anything, I don't know. I'm going to say don't be hard on yourself or myself or anybody else, in that that's why the Holy Spirit can bring these things back, is because no matter how stupid, superficial, useless, wasteful that substitution was, it has a glimmer of truth, or it couldn't even exist as an illusion. It has a glimmer of truth, and that's what the Holy Spirit reels back in.
Anyway, the Holy Spirit has committed your relationship, and so he's now invested. Because, like I said in the prior chapters, where it talked about the holy relationship, if you entered into the discussion and the reading with some gravitas, you would say, I have a relationship that I'm willing to turn over to the Holy Spirit to learn what a holy relationship is. And it's now we're past that and in the studies, and it's saying, hey, let him bring it here where you would have it be. Give him but a little faith in your brother to help him, the Holy Spirit, show you that no substitute you made for heaven can keep you from it.
In other words, the decision to live in a throwaway reality, whether I'm throwing away myself from the age of 20 to 26 in the interest of a better self that exists from 27 to 34, or that I'm throwing away a relationship or throwing away a job or throwing away an effort in a certain direction because I'm hoping for another one on the horizon. It's saying, give him but a little faith in your brother. In other words, give a little faith in each of those so-called throwaways to help him show you that no substitute you made for heaven can keep you from it. In other words, just because you've got a throwaway on your plate, on your horizon, it doesn't mean that that's really what it is at basis. Paragraph 10. In you there is no separation, and no substitute can keep you from your brother. Your reality was God's creation and has no substitute. You are so firmly joined in truth that only God is there, and he would never accept something else instead of you. He loves you both equally and as one, and as he loves you, so you are. You are not joined together in illusions, but in a thought so holy and so perfect that illusions cannot remain to darken the holy place in which you stand together. God is with you, my brother. Let us join in him in peace and gratitude and accept his gift as our most holy and perfect reality, which we share in him. Okay, so in you there's no separation, no substitute. Your reality was God's creation. So I'm hearing this joining. Who are we talking about here? Me and my brother.
Right, but then it suddenly changes a little bit of personhood. God is with you, my brother. So now it feels like a Jesus is speaking, or the Holy Spirit. God is with you, my brother. It's calling you, you know, the person who's reading it, my brother. Let us join in him. That's on sentence 8. Let us join in him, the Holy Spirit, in peace and gratitude and accept his gift as our most holy and perfect reality, which we share in him. It almost feels like...
Okay, but he says here, what's this? And as he loves you, so you are. As he loves you, so you are. You are not joined together in illusions, but in the thought so holy and so perfect that illusions cannot remain to darken the holy place in which you stand together. It's talking about you and I. It's talking about me and all these people.
Right.
Or it's talking about what? Me and my substitutes? What are we talking about?
The thing of it is, and he loves you, and as he loves you, so you are. So you are love. Because what is God? God's name is love. God is love. You're not joined together in illusions, but in the thought. Love, a wholeness, so holy and so perfect that illusions cannot remain to darken the holy place in which you stand together. Me and all my brothers and sisters.
So you stand together is a bunch of people. Is that right?
Yeah, in which you stand together. I would say 2 brothers or whatever, me and another, me and Jesus, wherever we stand united, where 2 or more are joined together, love is, okay?
But do you hear that? It seems like the vocabulary shifted away from me being addressed uniquely by myself to suddenly me being addressed as
the group. Yes.
The group. I'm part of this group.
Because
right?
it's one. Again, the Course does that a lot, where it suddenly seems to change personhood or whatever, where it feels like it's addressing you in a certain way or addressing the other in a certain way. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of almost every section in a chapter, it brings it back to, particularly at this point in the readings, it brings it back to wholeness again. It's like you, the Holy Spirit, God, Jesus, and everything, we're all one. As you approach the end of this whole section, it seems to do that one thing. It brings it, like you can't tell who's who.
Well, okay, we have this sort of engine or dynamic of fragmentation where, the ego sheds things and they go out and there's this temporary thing, the substitute thing. There's the shadows where I create a partial of you and then I let that partial of you overlay you, and that's
their judgments.
Right, is based on judgments. And now we had the shadows and now we have substitutes. So you can see that there's all these different vocabularies and energies for the various aspects, angles that
of separation.
The writer is talking about how we separate. Separation is not a simple, straightforward. We can say the separation. But it happens as shadows. That's fragmentary overlays that we layer up. It happens as
Substitutes.
the substitutes,
Yes.
which are this for that. I'll take this piece for that piece. A substitute might also be, I like this aspect of this person, and I don't like these other aspects of this person. So I've substituted the thing that I think I like about them to stand in for the whole thing.
Right.
So and I'm not addressing the whole person.
Right.
In all that, we go from that and the Holy Spirit holding our hand and collecting the shards
Of our
back.
projections.
And now we have this change of point of view, POV. It's changing like
Yes.
this person. And suddenly now it's addressing me and all of these others. Well, those others are the substitutes. That's who they are. The others are the substitutes. They are the shadows that the Holy Spirit has now brought us back together. In other words, those substitutes and shadows are all the things, and I know it didn't say shadows, but those substitutes are the things in the world that I have allowed to fly away from me as though they're unrelated to me. It could be people, persons, places, things, events, whatever. And the Holy Spirit, or Jesus, is saying, in that partnership, reel it in, reel it in, reel it in. And what you realize is when you reel that in, then Jesus says, my brother, or the Holy Spirit addresses me and says, you are now standing
on holy ground.
as one, on holy ground. So that those fragments, those shadows, those substitutes, are not simply personal, like what I would consider personal glitches of my own, like in a way.
They've actually are viewed in a.
It's the world.
Right.
It's this.
Right.
It's.
But the Holy Spirit, when it brings it back, when it brings the illusions to truth, those what we call our shadows or our substitutes and everything else fade away into the truth of that it is the same.
When the shadows are brought back to you, or not shadows, substitutes, when the substitutes are brought back to you, you become the world. You become the whole thing.
The whole thing. Because it's all love. That's where it was saying, that's where it was in there, that it went back to, and as he loves you, so you are. You are not joined together in illusions, but in the thoughts so holy, so perfect, that illusions cannot remain. That means your substitutes and everything, the things that darken it, the shadows and everything, they can't remain. The holy place is now the light and love all together in which you stand together. God is with you, my brother. That's when it says, now you understand. God is with you, my brother. Let us join him, the Holy Spirit, God, in peace and gratitude, and accept the gift. And it's bringing now, because we're coming close to the end of this, it's bringing it back around and saying, this is where we come together, in peace and gratitude, and accept the gift of that wholeness, that remembrance. Paragraph 11. Heaven is restored to all the sonship through your relationship, for in it lies the sonship, whole and beautiful, safe in your love. Heaven has entered quietly, for all illusions have been gently brought unto the truth in you, and love has shined upon you, blessing your relationship with truth. God and his whole creation have entered it together. How lovely and how holy is your relationship, with the truth shining upon it. Heaven beholds it and rejoices that you have let it come to you. And God himself is glad that your relationship is as it was created. The universe within you stands with you, together with your brother. And heaven looks with love on what is joined in it, along with its creator.
Whom God has called should hear no substitutes. Their call is but an echo of the original error that shattered heaven. And what became of peace in those who heard? Return with me to heaven, walking together with your brother out of this world and through another to the loveliness and joy the other holds within it. Would you still further weaken and break apart what is already broken and hopeless? Is it here that you would look for happiness? Or would you not prefer to heal what has been broken and join in making whole what has been ravaged by separation and disease? That is kind of a trick question.
Yeah, I mean, how are you going to answer that?
Well, let's get real and
Let's
honest for a second,
see
just with you
what
and I,
that
just
is.
real and
Okay.
honest, just as regular human beings,
Uh-huh.
not trying to do something here with this course. Have you ever thought you could achieve happiness by your efforts of just doing things? Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly did. I mean, that's why I pursued anything, and I continue to pursue things. So even on a daily basis,
Right.
I figure out this or that technique or skill to try to do this. I even did this pie chart this morning. Was it this
Yes,
morning?
it
A pie
was.
chart on my life. Just saying, well, this is how much we have left. And, so I'm constantly looking at this as a winnable game. I
Yeah.
really do look at this as a winnable game, But it says,
The winnable game is when you say game over.
what
Do you understand? Game over is the winnable game. This is what it brings it to you. Game over. I don't want to play anymore.
I know, but what does game over look like? What does game over look
Game
like?
over, and I'm not saying I'm there or anything. It's just that game over means that the reason why I came here, and each individual, whether we realize it or not, is to awaken the dream to the truth. And it says salvation of the world happens when one will forgive it completely. Just one. It doesn't take any more. That means game over. When the whole thing is forgiven, the sidewalks of history roll up. The whole thing comes into a lightened space. The happy dream appears for however long. And within a time space that I believe the way the Course talks about it is a now space. So where the happy dream is now in a now, people are aware of a timelessness. Game over is when the sonship folds up the world that we made and we enter into.
I know, but practically speaking, for me,
I know.
let's say I just say to
I like to
myself,
bring it to that other place.
I know, but let's say I say to myself, okay, game over, and recognize that all of my strategies for happiness, relative success, little of this, little of that, I wouldn't say that it was really, I wouldn't say it was all like a waste of time.
No.
I'm not there yet. I was bringing basketball. I practiced. I got better. I could, drill it from a certain distance consistently. That brought satisfaction. I won. That worked. And so these different things are like that. So it's very difficult to just say, hey, what a loser. The whole thing was an illusion.
God would never say, what a loser.
I know. Well, I could say that to myself, though. And I say, therefore, game over. No. Now, I can look at it that it's relative successes. There's been a lot of horizontal slippage. It's like it doesn't necessarily go anywhere. I have a lot of experiences that I can relate to or talk about somehow. But in terms of where I go from this moment of just saying game over, I think the illusion is this. I think the illusion is that when you say game over, all the fun goes away.
It's not. All the joy.
You say it.
All the joy is returned to your remembrance. The joy that is overflowing.
I know. Talk to me
unbelievably.
practically. That's great. I love that. But,
the thing of it is that I cannot talk to you practically about that or anybody, because the experience of remembrance, which is what this is trying to bring us to, is the remembrance of our wholeness and the truth of who we are, is not something that can be described to another. They must experience it themselves, and that only comes through the practice. And so it's asking
practice.
us,
What's that?
Practice. Practice is where you do the lessons and you practice so that you begin to have the witnesses of truth coming back to you. The
So
witnesses,
if you do the lessons, does that mean you've said game over?
No. Game over isn't over until you recognize with laughter and joy that it was a game and that it isn't something that I need to necessarily participate in.
Okay, let's say
all
I'm
the
in a
time.
game of Monopoly and we're halfway in. And, we've done these things and I size this thing up and I realize, wow, she owns Boardwalk, Park Place, Indiana Avenue, Kentucky Avenue, and whatever the other one is.
That's a win-lose game.
No, I know,
Okay.
but that's not anyway. If let's say I look at that game, we're not nearly finished. Okay, we're not nearly done. I realize there's still a lot of money in the bank, certain amount of property to be exchanged and bought and whatnot. But I can say game over, even as I roll the dice and move my little icon around the
your
board.
mother's calling.
No, I say game over, and I persist in moving the pieces, in saying, okay, well, I'll take this. No, yeah, sure, I'll sell you whatever, this piece of property or the utilities or whatever, I'll trade you. And I can keep playing that, but within myself, I have game over. I'm in game over, even though, and what it means is I'm going to endure this Monopoly game in the interest of
Participating
being with
the
you,
other,
participating
right.
with others.
But you're not invested in an outcome.
And at that point, well, what happens is the investment in my outcome shifts. The investment is no longer to win the game or accumulate property as much as it is to enjoy myself. That's it.
Yeah.
That's game over means now I do this to enjoy myself.
I
In
agree.
other words,
I think that's a good point.
because then I can enjoy the camaraderie. I can just enjoy hey, look at good-looking icons. I've got a lead pipe or whatever these things are anymore. And different game, Clue. But anyway, wrong game. So I truly can enjoy the game. As Byron Katie, the teacher, and I think she had an enlightened experience.
I do too.
She said, I only know the difference between thoughts that hurt and thoughts that don't.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very simple for her to, when she talks with, let's say if she were to have a conversation with me, she would identify the thoughts I persist in clinging to that are bringing me pain. And so for her, game over is, if you're going to think, why don't you enjoy it? If you're going to think, why don't you just make it a thought that you like?
Right.
And don't you think that there's
There
some
is,
of that here?
Yeah, there is some of that there. So let's just look at it again.
Right. And so the goal right now is this. We're no longer playing to win.
Yeah. Yeah, you're also deciding not to participate in that which is already weakened and broken apart so that it has more fragments and shattered. So that because you recognize that that's what the game was. The game was to continue to have broken and shattered pieces without wholeness. You go, oh, it's all about broken and shattered pieces. Do I still really want to be where that's going to be hurtful and painful and everything else? Or do I want this other thing where you're walking together and you have loveliness and joy? The other world holds, where you walk with God or you walk with the Holy Spirit in loveliness and joy. Well, and you're supposed to do that with your brother.
But what brings the loveliness and joy is no longer wanting to achieve victory or winnings in this situation. I no longer am living my life to win at this game, to win at this.
Yeah, we have to recognize that almost all the time we're gaming at some situation to acquire a better way or a better person in my life or to better myself. Or we kind of game it. We just don't even realize we're doing it. It's again at the end of almost every section. I've noticed that it asks you to make a decision. Would you still further weaken and break apart what is already broken and hopeless? Is it here that you would look for happiness, or Would you not prefer to heal what has been broken and join in making whole what has been ravaged by separation and dis-ease? So, again, it's like, well, you have a decision that you make. Do I want the decision for heaven is a whole lesson. I decide.
Well, okay. So let's cut to the chase. Everybody, anybody who's watching, you and I and the people we know would say, I want to make this a whole world. I want to heal. I want healing and wholeness. The question is, what strategy do I use? How do I accomplish that? Because I would say that we generally agree on the goal of wholeness.
Well, at this point, if you've been practicing the course, we're in chapter 18, you have made a decision to have the Holy Spirit as a partner in your life. You might not be able to do it all the time. It might not, but you decide that the Holy Spirit is your partner and that you want to see things in their wholeness, that you want to see your brother another way, particularly if they're bothering you, and that you're willing to bring at least one relationship to the Holy Spirit to have it be made into a holy relationship. And then witness what comes at you to bring up your own stuff, their stuff, whatever it is, that you're willing to say, hey, that's what's keeping me from having a holy relationship, because it will rise up. So all of that is progression through the process of doing this. And then it says, now it's trying to bring it all, you're going to walk hand in hand with your brother, okay? Because the Holy Spirit at this point is saying, I got your back. We're going to holiness. He's like, really? No, I got your back. We're going to walk through this world together, and we're going to hold our hands, and we're going to go through it into the next one. Now, we don't know what that looks like.
You have to take a shot at it, or the book is worthless. You have to, and I mean, I almost don't even want to ask you about what that is. But the thing is, if I just let it go at what you just said, well, we got to do this, we got to do that, we're walking with the brother, we're heading to heaven. I'm nowhere. I don't even, well, you might as well be telling me, be good and you'll go to heaven. I mean, I have no idea what that means.
No, it means that you will begin to have the witnesses to the truth of what the other really is, and therefore recognize what you are as well. So it's always that this world, because it's projection and reflection,
right,
that if I'm walking with the Holy Spirit, I am beginning to have the witnesses of loveliness and joy be reflected back in my life in the holy relationship. And if the one holy relationship it begins to show it, you can be bound and sure that it's going to show up in other places as well, unless you change your mind and decide that you are going to participate in the brokenness and need to cling to my separateness, my individuality. Their uniqueness is better than mine, whatever those things are that we compare and judge all the time. So I have to be willing to let those judgments go. I need to be willing to set with this and say, no, I remind myself, if I'm in an upset or something, no, I said I partnered with the Holy Spirit. And then I bring myself back to that whenever that happens and see what shows up for me.
So I'm going to say, from what I hear you saying, and if I try to apply this to myself practically, I'm going to say, when we walk away from this and we say goodbye, thank you, and we do this thing, I'll say to myself, really, game over. Game over. I'm no longer interested in the fragmented aspect of this world. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm in no position to understand really the steps and whatnot that has to happen for me to game over, for me to put down my icons and to quit playing the game with such investment. So, but when we're finished here, I say I am no longer going to pursue this a way of working the world to where I can succeed, where I have conquest, victory, satisfaction, happiness based on something I've done or some arrangement that I've made. I say I'm putting all those pieces down. I'm not going to do any of those things, and instead I just say, I'm in some kind of mystical partnership where I am like a light ray that's beaming down into this world around me. And that's what I am. I'm like a beam of light. I don't really care what other people are. I don't really see a bunch of beams of light.
Right.
I just know that I'm a beam of light. And I have to recognize that all of that out there is somehow an emanation of this as a beam of light, and that I have to sustain this and constantly, you know how when you're playing Monopoly and you go, well, what do you do about hotels? You know, and you're always going to the lid and you're reading the directions.
Oh, yes.
I have to constantly go back to the directions
Yes.
of the Holy Spirit and say, what's this way? What's this way? What's this way? You know what? I'm going to say this because it might be an interesting side note. This particular video has had so many technical problems.
I know.
The computer got overloaded and it shut down a couple of times. I mean, we literally covered sections
2 and 3 times.
and just talking to ourselves.
I know.
I mean,
We had to start all over again.
so we had to redo it like 3 times.
Right.
Now the thing is, I'm not saying that to say that, you know, it was a belabored process, only that I know why. And that was, I'm going to say that was this Holy Spirit truly guiding the process. Because I again had one of these kinds of waking up on the wrong side of the bed days. Waking up on the wrong side of the bed is a euphemism for meaning playing the game. I'm still double-fisted in this thing. I'm going to get the hotels. I'm going to own Boardwalk and Park Place. I'm going to take those people out. One way or another, I'm going to get my thing, you know?
Right.
I'm still there. That's why I wake up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, I am very sincere about this, and I take it very much to heart. And so the Holy Spirit literally shut it down several times in several different ways for me to have another look, because, and then I recognize you know, and this is me talking to the Holy Spirit, you did this. I know you don't just make up, I know you don't do that for fun.
I know.
So what's up with that?
Right.
Anyway.
Well,
that's
it was up for that so that we could take a break, because it was kind of an intense day, and
you know what? You're not the Holy Spirit, okay?
I don't know.
You don't know why. Only the Holy Spirit does. And he's over there pulling the plug on my computer. And I'm not completely sure why.
Okay, well, that's true.
Anyway, paragraph 13.
All right. Paragraph 13, final paragraph of this section. You have been called, together with your brother, to the most holy function this world contains. It is the only one that has no limits and reaches out to every broken fragment of the sonship with healing and uniting comfort. This is offered you in your holy relationship. Accept it here, and you will give as you have accepted. The peace of God is given you with the glowing purpose in which you join with your brother. The holy light that brought you and him together must extend as you accepted it. Okay, so there you have it. I mean, so I kind of concluded the whole holy relationship in the last discussion about how that's where it's taking it. At this point, it's saying you offered me to have a holy relationship. Okay, let's go. Let's see this thing. Let's see it through to the heavenly space where loveliness and joy abide. And so you've been called together with your brother to the most holy function this world contains. That's not a minor thing. The most holy function that this world contains. It's the only one that has no limits and reaches out to every broken fragment of the sonship.
And forgiveness is my only function.
Yes. Well,
is that it?
Is that it? That's it.
Yeah,
it was good.
Let's go save the world.
Let's go save the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.